We're your hosts,
Aaron Bacus
and Jason Kindler.
We like to sit down with our guests to hear their journey, their challenges, and how they impact the local community.
So grab a seat, tune in, and let's get inspired by Jacksonville's everyday workforce.
Welcome to Hometown Jax. Curtis Dvorak, thank you for coming on Hometown Jax. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It was great to meet you.
I appreciate you having me on.
You know, we were making the joke earlier. I asked you for your resume, and you were polite in your response, but what did you really want to say? I mean, you want to say, why would you ever ask me for the resume? Nobody needs a resume from me, or what were you thinking?
I'm in the middle of the last 10 years of my life reading the Stoics. Okay. So I would never say that. I would never say I've never uttered the words, do you know who I am? I've never said that. I would punch me in the face if I ever said that.
Well, honestly, I didn't really know how well known you are. I was kind of embarrassed because I did my homework before this, did a lot of research on you. And like you're kind of a big deal, although you wore a uniform for a long time, so people really probably don't know what you look like. It's the uniform you wrote, right?
Yeah. The character, you wear a life-size stuffed animal costume here in town, or any town actually, and you meet a lot of people and you get a lot of really cool opportunities.
Well, I want to go through your history really quick.
Sure.
What you've done, and then I want to get into the zoo because that's kind of the main reason. Honestly, I was attracted to talk about that. I mean, I haven't been to the zoo in a while, but man, I love animals.
We hear that too much. We hear that too much.
But I think you're solving that problem.
We're trying.
You're really putting the publicity out because honestly, that you made me think about the zoo. So let's go back to where were you born? Where did you start? This journey of yours?
Camp Hill, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Right across the river from Harrisburg.
And then how did you, well, I guess that's kind of close, Virginia Tech, like, is that what
but there was a lot of stops before that. There was a lot of stops. My dad, and I'll tell you the stops, and you can guess what my dad did, and I know what you're gonna guess, but you'll probably be wrong. So I was born in Pennsylvania, then moved, I think Virginia for a little bit, North Carolina, over to Egypt, back from Egypt to North Carolina, up to Jersey, and then from Jersey was second grade. So all of that moving happened from birth to second grade.
Okay.
And then once I got to Jersey, second grade through high school, before I went to Virginia Tech, I was in Jersey.
Okay, you mentioned Egypt. I got to ask you about Egypt. That doesn't fit into
Everybody always goes, "Oh, your dad was in the military." Huh? I was like, "No, AT&T."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was part of the team that sold the first real phone lines to the Egyptian government, Sadat, and then back in 1979 or so.
Wow, that's interesting.
He had been traveling over there back and forth for a year, and then my mom told him, "Hey, if you're going to keep going back and forth over there, we're either going over there or like something's got to give here." And so we all moved over there for a year.
You don't meet many people that lived in Egypt.
No,
so congratulations.
It was at Cairo. Hey, shout out to anybody listening who went to Cairo American College, kindergarten through high school. Love that place.
So you ended up at Virginia Tech.
I went to kindergarten there. I remember it fondly.
So you ended up at Virginia Tech.
Yes.
And did you know, like, from day one that you wanted to be a mascot, or how did that thought process materialize? You were the mascot, the Hokey Bird for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, for Virginia Tech. My brother had gone to Virginia Tech before me. He's an architect.
Okay.
We're different. I'm an entertainer. He's an architect.
Yeah, right.
But he had gone to Virginia Tech first, so I'd gotten to know Blacksburg, and it was one of the schools I applied to, and I love it. Blacksburg is amazing. If you've been there, it's just a classic, amazing college town up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so I went there, and the mascot part of it came about. I did it in high school twice. I didn't do it like repeatedly. I literally in high school I did the two games.
Okay.
I did the semifinals. Maybe I did one basketball game. I think I only did a couple. But I only did the semifinals, the state championship for football, and the state championship. And the only reason it happened was because I happened to be standing there talking to the cheerleaders, and the cheerleading coach came over and said, "Hey, we need somebody to get in the wolf costume." And it was November in New Jersey. And I was like, pretty cold out here, and another layer of fur might be pretty cool. And I was also, at the time, a diehard Notre Dame football fan because my dad went to Notre Dame, and so I grew up loving Notre Dame. And so, college football, I'd been watching that, and so I'm watching these different characters and stuff, and so I was like, yeah, I could do this. And Florida State, they're running out. So I grabbed, the only thing I knew from watching college football was like, all right, what does a mascot do? He leads the team out, throw a flag in the middle of the field like Florida State does. I'd seen that. So I was like, cool. So I did that. And then I just started acting up and running around. I was like, this is amazing. Like all the stuff I get in trouble for in school and get sent to the principal's office for, they want me to do it out here at the football game. So I did it twice, loved it, whatever, no big deal. Didn't think anything of it. Got to Tech, and me and my buddies in the dorm, we were the rowdy group at all the games. We were the ones camping out for tickets.
Okay, you're one of those.
We camped out for tickets because you get your student tickets, but whoever's there first is going to get their pick of the best seats.
Probably when they were really. That was a good run for
them,
wasn't it?
Right as they were starting.
Okay.
Right as they were starting to take off. But it was actually my freshman year. We were 2-8-1. I think we were 2-8-1. I sat through every one of those games. But anyway, our crew, our dorm crew, was the rowdy guys at the games. We once our dorm once won a contest for a free 6-foot sub.
Okay.
Because the athletic department offered the rowdiest fans at the next women's basketball game, because there was a big rival coming up. They said the rowdiest group of fans at the next women's basketball game is going to get a free 6-foot sub. And when you're a freshman in college back in 1992, a free 6-foot sub is like gold.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So we painted our chests and we went like full out, totally painted up and stuff. And so we won that. And so people in the crowd, we started at the basketball games, we started leading the cheers. Yeah. We were the Cameron Crazies, but it was Castle Crazies because Castle Coliseum. And we were doing all the same stuff they're doing at Cameron. We just had a terrible basketball team. And my buddies started telling me, the bird would walk by and we were just all ringleaders, and I'm usually standing on seats leading the crowd. And they said, you should try out for the Hokie Bird. And I kind of was like, whatever. And it was just like a joke. Like, all right, that'd be pretty cool. And then you see the Hokie Bird, he gets to be on the field. I was like, and then we honestly, me and my buddies were like, wait a minute. If you get that gig, we don't have to camp out for tickets. You could get us better tickets. Right. And I was like, I don't know about that, but it's worth a shot. So that's why I tried out.
And this was your freshman?
This was at the end of my freshman year. I called about tryouts, and they said, sorry, we got the 2 guys we have are coming back next year, so we're not doing tryouts. And so that my sophomore year, I called halfway through the athletic department, and they said, yeah, we're losing 1 guy. We're going to be doing tryouts. And so I went to the tryout, and they had about 10 people. And
what do you do at a mascot tryout?
Well, in college, at a mascot tryout, and actually most mascot tryouts would be the same. They teach you for a few days the character, because they want to teach you the walk, they want to teach you the personality, the mannerisms. Because when you're in a mascot costume and you have multiple people doing it, you don't want anybody in the crowd looking and seeing, knowing, hey, that's Joe. Hey, that's Susie. Like the walk has to look the same. The expressions have to be the same. Everybody has to be identical. So you learn that. You go through some stuff, and then they teach you, or they tell you, hey, all right, come up with a skit, and do whatever you want. And then they just kind of pick. They have a crowd kind of in there when you put the suit on and go out there, and they kind of just base it off of who can own the crowd.
So you ended up doing it for junior and senior year?
I did. I got it at the end of my sophomore year, and did that whole summer, and then all the way junior and senior year.
So leading on further, you graduate and you move to Jacksonville. Did you move to Jacksonville with the intention of trying out for the mascot?
I was a late pick in the supplemental mascot draft.
Yeah, NIL didn't work out back then. Yeah.
It was I actually the Jags brought me here. The Jags found me, which is it's a crazy, crazy story. We have time though. I wanted to be a mascot, so I realized I wanted to be a mascot at the end of my junior year, halfway through my senior year. I was watching these guys on ESPN, guys like Billy the Marlin, and a bunch of NBA guys, the Gorilla, Bob Wolf, who's, I can say these names, nobody will know who they are. John Ruth, Billy the Marlin, Bob Wolf, the Gorilla, the original. Right. But I'm seeing these guys on SportsCenter, and I'm watching, and I'm a mascot at the time, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I was like, I can do that. So I call a team. This is 94, 95. Yeah. I call a team, and somebody answers. I go, hey, can you tell me about your mascot program? I call a few teams, and I call a few of them. One said part-time, another one goes, no, that's full-time gig. And I was like, full-time gig? Right. I was like, I don't have no numbers. Can you tell me, like, is that a salary? And they started telling me, oh yeah, salary, and it's full-time thing. And I'm like, so I called my parents halfway through senior year, or partway through the first semester, and I'm like, hey, so get this. I know I'm graduating this year, and my focus is communications and public relations, but
I'm not going to be a lawyer.
I'm going to be a professional mascot. And they're like, very long pause on the phone with both of them. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, you can literally get paid to do this. Like, what? I'm like, no, they pay guys like full-time salary. It's not just a dude who shows up on game day and gets paid $100. And so they're like, all right, go for it. So we made some calls trying to find your way in, and wasn't as easy as it is now, no internet.
Well, yeah, right.
I mean, at AOL, but no way to, so I just through connections and stuff, I ended up getting a meeting with John Ruth, Billy the Marlin, down in Miami. We happened to be going down there to see our cousins for a holiday. And so I got a chance in January, like right around New Year's, to go meet with Billy the Marlin in 1996, January of 96. And he talks me through the whole game. Oh, this is how it works. He had been the Ibis. He had been Sebastian the Ibis at University of Miami, and he had been Cocky at South Carolina before that.
Interesting.
And I think a minor league mascot. And so he's telling me, oh, you got to do some minor league stuff first. You're going to have to wait for a pro gig to open because they just don't open up. There's not that many teams doing it. At the time, there was only 5 NFL teams using a mascot.
Interesting.
And so like NFL only had like 5 or 6 spots. NBA had like 15 to 20 spots. Now there's obviously a lot more. But he said, oh, you're going to have to go through the minors, this and that. And I said, all right, well, so how does that work? I'm a college student. I'm writing stuff down. And he goes, actually, he goes, you know what? After we're walking around the stadium there for 3-4 hours, he goes, you know what? Our minor league team, the Charlotte Knights, is actually having tryouts in February. And I was like, no way. Right. Charlotte Knights is 2 hours down the road from Virginia Tech. I was like, how great is that? This is perfect. Universe is putting this right in front of me. So he goes, yeah, I'll set you up. He connects me to a woman named Lisa Chico at the Charlotte Knights. And this is February of 96. So I'm getting ready to tryouts in February. I call a few days before just to get the what I need to bring, what's going to happen, what's it going to look like, And they had sent some stuff, but so I'm talking to her and I said, hey, when does the person, whoever wins this, when do they have to start? And she says, oh, I mean, like yesterday. She goes, we have spring training starting in like a couple weeks. And I was like, oh, and I'm on the phone. And I'm on the phone with her and I'm like, oh man. I was like, I'm still in college. I was like, I graduate in May. And she goes, oh, wow. Yeah. She goes, we have to hire somebody right away. So she's like, I totally understand if you want to just pass on it or whatever.
Right.
I paused for a sec on the phone because I'm sitting there going, oh shoot, I'm going to miss this tryout. And then I go, you know what? I was like, I know you got to hire somebody and I know I got no shot, but can I please come to the tryout just so I can go through one and see what it's like? Because all I had done is a college tryout. Let me see what a professional mascot tryout's like. Let me go through the process because I know I'm going to do this. So I need to have some reps. And I drive down there, 2-hour drive down there, show up at the interview and the whole tryout. And I did great, and I ended up finishing second. And Lisa Chico called me, and she said, we would have loved to hire you, but we know you have to graduate. Right. But she jokingly said, if this guy, I still remember it, she's like, if this guy fails his drug test in a month or 2, we'll give you a shout, which apparently is a thing mascots can do. So I moved on. I was like, okay, whatever. It was cool, a great experience. I learned a bunch of things at the tryout, like you do in any interview. Learned a couple things that I end up taking to the next one. And the next one comes in May. I graduate, and it's like a week after graduation or like a few days right after. I get a phone call at my house in Blacksburg where I just graduated, and I'm looking at. I told my buddies I'm going to be a professional mascot, but I don't have anything lined up. But there's a couple.
You were committed to that.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Oh yeah, no. Once I say I'm going to do it, it's either going to happen or I'm going to die. And so I said, I'm going to do this. So I told my buddies that I was going to be a professional mascot. So I get this phone call, and the guy goes, hey, this is Roddy White from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm like,
Jaguars? Who are the
Jacksonville Jaguars? I'm like, I'd been in Jacksonville the year before we played the Gator Bowl in 94, 95 when the Gator Bowl was played in Gainesville. But we stayed in Jacksonville. Okay. So I went to the landing, went to Fat Tuesdays, did all that stuff. So I was like, I know Jacksonville. I've been there, but the Jaguars. And I was like, oh, that's right. The Panthers and the Jaguars are the 2 new NFL teams. I hadn't even thought to call them. And he goes, yeah. But I'm like, no, this isn't. I'm looking at the phone and I'm like, I know this is one of my buddies. They put their roommate on. They put their friend on the phone, and they're totally messing with me. Right. I'll watch my language. And I literally almost was like about to cuss, like, screw you, whatever, stop messing with, because why would the Jaguars call me? How did you get my number? There's no reason in my head that I could possibly think that they would have. How do they get a hold of me? Yeah. This ain't, again, the internet age where you can just pull up. Right. And I go, real quick, tell me again. I want to get more information. Let me see him keep talking because maybe he'll fumble over and say something different. He says all the same stuff again. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. This seems legit, but like, this makes no sense. So I go, how'd you get my number? Like, how? I don't mean to ask that, but like, this is weird. Like, how? He goes, oh yeah, we got all your information from Lisa Chico at the Charlotte Knights.
Chico. I knew there was going to be a reason in with Lisa.
I go, what? They go, yeah. I go, but why? Why would again, they go, oh, well, in our due diligence to start a mascot program, we called around to some of the best programs in sports, and Hugo the Hornet in Charlotte was one of the best mascots in the NBA going. So they were calling different programs to see, hey, what do you do great? Because you have a great program, we want to do that. And they talked to the Charlotte Hornets, and the Hornets said, hey, yeah, no, we don't have any information for you. Hugo's been here. We haven't had a tryout in forever. But you know what? We also own the Charlotte Knights. And the Charlotte Knights, our baseball team, is actually having tryouts, or had tryouts a few months ago. So they could probably give you a bunch of information. Boom, Roddy calls Charlotte Knights. Talks to Lisa Chico.
So if you wouldn't have gone down knowing that you weren't going to get it for the experience, you would have never been Jaxson de Ville.
100%. And that's
story.
When I go and speak to like high school or college kids, that's what I tell them all the time. I was like, my message is take advantage, go through every open door. Go through any door that opens in front of you, go through it.
Right.
Go through it. You don't know what's on the other side, but it might be something great. And if it isn't, turn around and you come back through.
Unbelievable.
But go through the open door because again, had I hung that phone up, I'm not here.
Interesting. Well, what's interesting to me too is that you knew that you were going to be a mascot. Like it's like, I mean, that's not a normal thing. I would think a lot of people like, yeah, I'm going to be a mascot and I'm going to figure out who needs one.
Yeah, it really started in my junior year. Once I got the mascot, I thought I was just getting it to get my buddies better tickets,
right,
and to have fun and be on the field and on the court entertaining people, which I've always done and my whole life for free. And getting in trouble at every, as I told people, for 19 years in the NFL, I got paid to do everything I got sent to the principal's office for back in school.
Does this job, did it pay benefits? Like,
oh yeah,
you have health insurance?
I got a pension coming in 4 years.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Yeah, I got a pension coming in four. I'm almost 51, so 4 years. 4 years.
That is amazing.
Months. Yeah.
So obviously, your claim to fame, an amazing story. You were 20 years into that, right?
19 years with the Jags, 2.5 years or 2+ years in college.
19 years with the Jags. Did the Jags have tryouts every year?
No. They started the program, and again, when they called me in 96, they were starting it. They started the cheerleading program in 95, luckily for me, and then the mascot program in 96. Just budget-wise, they decided to do one first, and then their first season was 95, and so I got down here just right as they were starting that program, and I got to create the entire program. And then once I won the tryout, it was just re-sign contracts. It wasn't like a new tryout or anything.
Yeah.
Because they were happy with what I was doing.
Right.
We were growing the program, but
what do you do during the week?
As a mascot?
It's more as like community ambassador.
Yeah. When I was the mascot for the Jags, I did average 350 to 400 appearances a year.
Wow.
All over the place.
Always in your uniform.
Always in costume. Yeah.
Right. Was it hot? Was your uniform?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
that's how I kept this girlish figure.
Yeah. Right. So the technology didn't develop a little bit to make that uniform a little bit.
No, there's nothing you can do. You just have to be in shape, and you have to not be bothered by sweat.
Yeah. Interesting. So being at that, before I go through everything else, like, what's your most memorable moment, or one or two, being the mascot? I know I saw an interview online with you. I feel like it was maybe a Denver game or something or whatever. But what are some moments that come to your mind?
Oh man, it's 200. I did about 200 games.
Wow.
Total, counting everything, Pro Bowls and preseason and playoffs and regular season. Because when I was there, we went to the playoffs quite often.
Quite mascot,
quite
sure.
often. But no, it was 350 to 400 appearances a year. It was I ran the program. I booked all the appearances. I billed for all the appearances. I collected for all the appearances. I designed all the merchandise. I planned, basically built the school program for the character.
But didn't you? I feel like I read something that you kind of changed the way that the Jackson de Ville looked, right? Like the initial thing rolled out. Like you're like, no,
that was big. That was big. Yeah, the first day. I get there July 1. So the tryouts in early June of 96. I start July 1. I come down here, I get to work, and like my second day of work, they go, all right, you ready to see the character? It's being made right now. And they show me, they opened up this, artist sketches of the official. I still have them.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I was like, ooh. And I go, well, I knew it was going to be a fat character, which I'm totally cool with because they're fun. But I look at it and he was orange with black spots. And I looked at it and I said, this is uncomfortable for me. I'm 21. I'm turning 22 in like 2 weeks.
That had to have some chutzpah to say that.
Yeah. I literally, on my second day, I'm 21 years old. And I go, the costume's not finished yet, right? And they go, no. I go, okay, good. They're like, why? I'm like, the colors just aren't right. I was like, he's going to be confused for Chester Cheetah.
Right.
And if I showed you the picture, if you see it in that thing,
I remember
it
online,
looked very close to Chester Cheetah. And I was like, it's going to be confused with Chester Cheetah. And branding wise, because I was a PR major and stuff. And I said, branding wise, we don't want to have any confusion with any other characters. This character has to be like, when you see it, I know it's that one. There's nobody else it could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And they said, all right, well, what do you suggest? And I said, let's make it more cartoonish. I was like, I know because they were struggling between what they wanted. A lot of people in town wanted a muscle jaguar is going to rip things apart, know. But that's not entertaining. And so they were struggling with that. They wanted the fat character that was made by this company, Harrison Erickson, who made the Philly Fanatic and the Muppets and a bunch of other, top tier characters. And they were struggling with the mean football jaguar, real looking jaguar to cartoon fantasy character jaguar. And so they tried to keep the natural colors of a jaguar, but they missed on it. It was more orange. And I said, all right, I was like, let's do this. Let's make it something that nobody else will have. There's no animal on the planet that will look like this. Make it bright yellow, which sticks in kind of the gold, but take the gold of your main colors and let's go with a yellow because he's a cartoon and go yellow and make those spots teal. And I said, I need to put shorts on. And they were like, well, that's the weirdest of the things you want to change. Why? I said, because if he never has shorts on, I can't streak. And again, this is like my first week. And they're like, what do you mean streak? I was like, I'm going to do a streaking bit at some point. And it's only going to be funny.
So funny.
It's only going to be funny if he's always worn pants and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Because some mascots you see, they don't have pants.
Right.
They just have a shirt.
Right. No, I'm getting it.
And I was like, and they're like, all right. So they agreed to all the changes, which was really cool.
And it looks the same today?
I mean, a handful of years in, he used to look out the neck. I would look out the neck, similar to Big Bird, so that he would be taller. And I got tired of that because I started doing stunts. And the problem was, as they're looking out the neck of the costume, sorry kids, turn it off right now. Don't listen to this part of the podcast. Ruining the illusion. But when you look out the neck and the head's up here, I got a helmet on. It's a kind of a lacrosse helmet, batting helmet with a chin strap, so the head stays. So when you turn, it goes with you. But I got a helmet on, but I got nothing covering my face. So I'm right here with you, and there's this first thing now. And you can kind of, if you sit too long, if you sit still too long, kids can see, and they're like, that's where he looks at it. You kind of stay moving. But
so
that wasn't the bad part. The bad part is when a football player goes to grab the character by the neck.
And
that's my face. And that's what happened. It happened one time. A football player came up and he thought again, they're football players.
Yes.
They're not exactly the brightest. All of them. Some of them.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, he thinks he's grabbing the neck of the character and he grabs the neck of the character to take like this and he's going, and I'm like, ah! So I go, you know what? This has to change. So I opened the mouth.
Okay.
Because the mouth had been closed until then. So I opened the mouth so I could see out the mouth, and now I have a face shield protecting me, so nothing can
That makes sense.
And I had a couple nose stingers, those ones where it stings real bad and your eyes water. I had a couple of those, and I go, this is not fun. Like it's gonna get one of these is gonna break my nose, and then blood's just gonna start coming out of a tracheotomy of Jackson's neck, and it's gonna scare some kid terribly.
Now, did you ride in the plane with the team?
No, you don't do away games.
Okay.
I rode with the team a couple times when I wanted to go on an away trip, but not to perform because you don't. It's not like college. College, you get to bring your character,
Well, I just
and your
could not-
cheerleaders.
I guess I never thought about that, but I would think that would be fun banter. You know,
It could be fun banter, but it could also be deadly. If you go to Philly, or you go to New York Jets, or you go to Oakland back in the day. I mean, they threw batteries at our players.
Oh,
and
man.
I had already had ice and batteries thrown at me at the University of Miami when we went down there and played.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, you don't go on the road in the NFL.
Interesting. Man, that is, wow. You do a whole podcast on that. How cool is that?
There's 10,000 stories.
Well, I would hope your statue is somewhere in the stadium somewhere. No?
No, they've removed all that stuff. Everything's changed over there.
So going through, I mean, you're just like the most diverse person. Like, you know, we're going to get into the zoo, wildlife wanderer, promotion. Like, I can't wait to get into that. But tell me that you did a stint as a talk show host. Is that right after Jacksonville?
Yeah.
You said that was 5 years?
5.5 years.
And when was it on? I remember.
So it's a show called First Coast Living.
Right.
It's on NBC 12 here in Jax. Yeah. Still on. Shout out to the current hosts, David and Jordan. And yeah, I hosted that with you might know her. For the first 3 years, my co-host, you might not know her, Casey DeSantis.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah, she was my co-host for the first 3 years.
Man.
That was
of course. So that was before she was married to Ron.
She was married to Ron at the time. He was a second term when I started in 2015. I think he was a first or second term congressman, and was heading towards his second term, then his third term, and then governor. And once he ran for governor, that's when she left.
Right. And was she in news before that, or that's pretty much what she did?
She had been in Channel 4 before then, but then she was with PGA Tour. She was the PGA Tour on-air person for their web
Interesting.
stuff. And then went to 4, and then came to 4 PGA Tour, then to 12.
Okay.
But yeah, so I co-hosted with her, did that. But yeah, the Jags, I was 19 years. Shad had bought the team in 2012. And I had already been close to quitting and close to moving on because I felt I had gotten everything out of it. 19
years. I mean, that's
I'm talking. This is 2 years before I retired.
Okay.
I had already been looking, going, I think I'm done. Like, I just don't. There's nothing else for me to prove here. There's nothing else for me to do here because it's all the same stuff over again. And I don't like doing the same stuff over again. And so I was looking, and then the team was so bad. We had our worst year ever in 2012. And I honestly, I was talking to my friends at the time, and I was like, I can't leave. I was like, I feel guilty if I leave right now.
Right.
Like if I walk out the door after the worst season in franchise history, I was like, our fans, and at that time here in Jacksonville, those who are Jaguar fans and remember, like it was a tough time to be a Jaguar fan. We were getting criticized all over the country. Everybody's saying we're losing our team. They're going to London. We had been dealing with that forever.
Right.
And I took it personally, as Michael Jordan says. I took it personally. And from my Twitter account and stuff, I would go at national media, which is, frowned upon. These you can't, and you could still pull up Jackson's old Twitter and you can find some of the, I completely destroyed Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk because he got into it with me on there and didn't realize he was talking to somebody who was wittier than he is.
Right.
And it's still out there, and it was fantastic. Our fans were going nuts because Florio is a punk, and he loved to take jabs at Jacksonville all the time.
Right.
So I went back and forth with him, and I used to do that, and I was taking it seriously or personally because I was like, no, screw you guys. I love this city.
Right.
This city is amazing. I thought I was going to come to this city for a few years and go on to the NBA because NBA mascots are more featured.
Right.
And it's more of a stage, and you really get multiple skits, you know. And I was, really taking it personally as far as like for our fans. So I was like, I'm not quitting yet. No way. I'm gonna stick this out. So I kept going for a few more years, and then it was just the creativity aspect. It was kind of like the new regime was coming in, and they wanted to do their thing the way they wanted to do it. And it was very different. We were moving into a much different sensitivity world out there where my comedy
wasn't appreciated as much
by some. This was right before cancel culture. Like I got out before cancel culture. But it was just, I had a sense of humor that pushed the boundaries, caused the NFL to change all of the mascot rules. But they didn't name them after me. I'm still bothered by that. So I was pushing the boundaries. I was pushing the envelope, and it was like, I said this when I retired. It was like I got to, for 19 years, and Wayne Weaver was the best for the 17 years I was with him, or 16. I got to drive the car at 100 miles an hour on any road I wanted as the character. And it was kind of turning into, hey, you can still drive the car, but you got to go 60 and you got to stay on these roads.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, here's the keys.
Right.
You drive.
Right.
Because I know one way to do this. I know one way to do this. And so I started looking. And that's when TV came calling. And First Coast News, a connection there, network connection there, hit me up and they said they're looking for a new male host. And I was like, how much did that pay? And it was May, early May of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right before the schedule was coming out. And in the NFL world, once the schedule comes out as a mascot, then it's like, okay, now I know the dates of the home games. I know. And so then you start planning your skits. You start planning what you're doing for that intro, what you're doing for this, and game off starts doing all those things. And then the summer starts up my workout program to get in shape for the season, which is running sprints out there on the practice fields after the team finishes and like all that stuff. And I was also 2015. I had just turned 40, so I'm 40, going to turn 41.
Mm-hmm.
And I was eating Pez. I was eating Advil like it was coming out of a Pez dispenser.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I can't keep doing this. I'm having back spasms every few months. I'm wearing a back brace to appearances. You know, there's times I'm literally in a back brace in the van, lifting my leg to put it in the costume.
You never think about that.
And then go get on a scooter, and I'm going around like hoping that I don't, a kid doesn't grab me. It was just like there has to be another way to make money.
Yeah.
And I had been working on it because I knew I wanted to get into local media.
Yeah.
Back in like year 5. I mean, I came from communications.
Well, you probably made a ton of great connections doing that. And
yeah.
What was the premise of the show?
First Coast Living is a pay-for-play lifestyle show where businesses can come on and do a segment, and they pay to come on and have a segment. But then there's also, foodie segments and comedian segments and, concerts coming up and all the lifestyle stuff around town.
And that was in the morning?
It was 11. It's on 11 to noon every day, 11 to noon every day.
Did that take a lot of prep work?
No.
Before?
No, it was fun. It was
it
was really cool and fun to do TV. Again, it was like, wow, this is neat. I never thought, not many people get handed a anchor position on a show, an hour-long show every day, after never having your face out there at all.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Did they expect you to show up in the Mascot?
No, because like I said, I had about 15 years earlier, 10 to 15 years earlier, I had said, I'm going to get into local media here.
Yeah.
And I started on WAPE 95.1 with Eden Kendall, Amadeus, Hoyle, and Steve.
Yeah.
And they had me come on, and I would do cat chat on Fridays, talking about what's coming up for that game, because I knew I wanted to get reps. And you got to get reps talking on a microphone, as you know, to get familiar with it. And so I started doing it then, and I just was doing that because I knew one day I want to get into local media. So let me just keep practicing my reps, keep doing this, keep meeting these folks. Mm-hmm. And then I did silly things in the costume. Like I made sure that as Jaxson de Ville, I went into every TV station in town in costume when I happened to be near that station.
Yeah.
And I would roll in during news hour.
Right.
And just in the costume, and I'd roll into the newsroom back when there wasn't
Well, I'm sure
security.
they loved to have you.
They loved it.
Yeah, right.
But I'm in there. They're loving that I'm there. I'm loving that I'm there because I'm meeting the producers and I'm meeting this.
Yeah.
And so, I just built that network.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it worked. 2015, First Coast Living called and said, "Hey, we're looking for a new host, and we want to put you on GMJ and have you do lifestyle around town." And I was like, and I had to sneak into First Coast News for the meeting. So this is May of 2015.
Because they didn't know you were?
Well, no, because our partner station was Channel 4 at the time. And I had already been told by our team when they asked me if I could guest host First Coast Living. I had already been told by our team, no, they're not our partner station. We can't put one of our people on their air. And I was like, well, that stinks. I was like, I really want to do, media. And so I did some stuff with Channel 4. But anyway, so I talked to the executive producer at First Coast News, who was recruiting me, and I said, listen, I was like, this is very delicate because like we can't have anybody know that I'm meeting with you to talk about a job. We can't have this get out that I'm possibly leaving because it'll And so I go to the side door first, and I go in there with the GM and this executive producer, and we meet. And I said, listen, first I just want to say, like, y'all understand what you're getting, right? Like, this is going to be raw. This is going to be very unfiltered. And I mean, I'm not going to swear on air, which I never did, luckily, but I'm not I have no training. I didn't even take a journalism class.
Which
never took
probably
a
what
broadcasting
made you
class.
appealing. Yeah, for sure.
And they were like, no, as James Gladstone says, we're hiring you to be you.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, it was music to my ears.
That's awesome. So something with Hampton Golf and RV rentals you do?
RV rentals. I got a couple bars at the beach.
Okay. You have a couple bars? You own a couple bars?
Lucky's and Hoptinger in Jax Beach.
We've heard of those for sure.
They're fantastic
So
places.
I can name drop there next time.
I'm a silent partner. And the staff changes
You've
over.
never been a silent anything. Come
True,
on.
but in this one, the managing partners, my partners out there, if they hear this, will know. Yeah, they made it very clear at the beginning, like Curtis, you don't. Yeah, so I have no managing.
That's funny.
Job duties with that. That's just a mailbox money.
So, so you're married with 3 kids. How old are your kids?
6, 4, and 1.
Okay, because I saw.
I started late.
That's awesome. Because I saw in one interview you did about how you prioritize your life, and they are priority number 1.
100%.
As far as how you
Yeah,
have all your hands in all this other stuff.
It's what made me leave TV.
Yeah.
It's what made me leave TV was my second child coming. We had some medical stuff with my first child that was challenging. And then my second child arrived and was coming in 2020. And I didn't want to be on stage anymore.
Right.
You know, I'd been the mascot on stage for 19 years in this town. And then I was the TV fun guy for 5.5 years. And when you're in those positions, and especially on the TV one, like you have to be, if you're going to be the Jacksonville fun guy, you have to know everything that's happening in Jacksonville. And my second child was coming, and I just didn't care about anything else.
Right.
I didn't want to go to concerts. I didn't want to go. I wasn't going to the bars anymore. I wasn't even going to my own bars.
Right.
You know, and I just didn't want to be on stage anymore. And one of the things that really kicked it for me was made me stop doing Twitter as well. Was I looked at the battery, the battery thing on your phone, your iPhone, what can show you how much time you spent on every single app over the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I started looking at that, and I was looking at the time I was spending on Twitter, talking with some cool people and a lot of morons. And I was like, I got a second child coming. I can't be doing an hour a day, but you have to in TV. You have to be commenting on everything. You have to have an opinion about everything. And if you don't say thoughts and prayers, or you don't say this or that, you're going to get killed by everybody. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, you can look at my social media. I barely ever post.
No, you don't. I was looking at your socials.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to get out. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I jumped in to do spokesperson stuff, and kind of where I've been the last 7 years. People ask me what I do for a living, and I was like, I hang with my 3 kids and my wife. And they're like, no, what do you do? I was like, what do I do to pay bills? I tell people to go to Lucky's and Hoptinger and Jax Beach. I tell people to go to the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. I tell people to rent my bus. And I tell people to call me if they want me to do a speaking gig for them.
That's fine. That's awesome. So how did you, now let's get into the zoo. So how did you get involved with the zoo? I mean, were you always an animal lover since the beginning, or did it develop, or?
I was the original big cat here in Jacksonville.
Right.
So
well, yes.
Big cat made me love, no, but I got to go out to the zoo as the character a bunch because obviously they're, doing events out there. And I got to go see the zoo and starting in 96 and watching it change and watching Dolores and Wayne sink a bunch of money into it and really change how it looked and how amazing it was. And it just gotten better and better and better. So I've been going there. And then you started as we're talking, like I haven't been out there in a while. And that is such a common thing we hear from people. It's like, oh, I haven't been there in forever. But I don't have my little kids anymore. I don't have my grandkids. And I keep telling people, I'm like, it's not just for little kids. If you want to go see the most biodiverse 120 acres on the First Coast and breathe the best oxygen, maybe not near the elephant, but it's such an amazing walk through nature.
Yeah.
And I got to see all this stuff change. I said, I promise you, if you haven't been in 5 years, if you haven't been in 10 years, it has changed dramatically. You'll be turned around.
Oh, I can't wait to get out. Is the research that I did. I mean, the zoo's got pretty amazing history. Opened in 1914 in Springfield.
In Springfield, where I lived for 3.5 years, yeah.
It's
not in 1914.
Interesting. I mean, because that's a residential area now. I can't imagine.
It was in Clutho Park.
Interesting.
It was in Clutho Park, and there was the first, when it first opened, it had 1 deer.
That's it. A red deer, I think it was what I read.
One deer.
Then moved to in 1925 to where it is now.
On the Trout River.
It's just really interesting, the people that had the vision to do these things at that point. And then 1992 went through a huge redevelopment, raised a bunch of money, and kind of leading where it is today, that there's a lot going on as far as changing the entrance, exhibits. Let's talk about that.
We got a brand new $70 million entrance being built right now.
$70 million.
$70 million. It started much less than that, but construction costs went up. As you know in your business, you probably hear it a lot. The cost has changed. And so it's gone up. But it's a brand new entrance that has a skyscape, the ViStar skyscape. And then the first thing you're going to see is the Wayne and Dolores Bar Weaver Manatee River. And it's a manatee river that can hold about 15 manatees.
Interesting.
Which will be used in conjunction with our critical care center that we have for manatees that opened in 2017. That we use along with Tampa, SeaWorld, Miami as the only places in the state to rehabilitate and rescue manatees.
Interesting.
So when a manatee gets caught from cold distress or gets caught from a boat strike somewhere, before we had this in 2017, if it was found up here, which we have a bunch of them, it had to be trucked all the way to SeaWorld or all the way to Tampa or all the way to Miami for there. And that is stressful for the animal. So that Manatee Critical Care Center kind of changed the game for the manatees in the state of Florida and made their chances a lot better, especially the ones in Northeast Florida. So now this Manatee River, this is going to enhance that, where we could only hold 5 in our critical care center. Now we're going to be able to hold 15. So now our critical care center is going to be truly the critical care ones. Because sometimes we have some in there that they're good, they just got to fatten up.
Right.
And they just got to eat a bunch of lettuce, which is very expensive, which is why we need people to donate.
Right.
But yeah, it'll just be for the ones that are critical, and then the ones that are fattening up will be swimming around right as you come into the zoo, and there's going to have other.
I mean, everybody loves
life.
Manatees. Everybody loves to see them. So that was another question. I'm assuming the zoo rescues distressed animals, or is that part of it, or that is a different function? I don't know.
We're not the place to call if there's an animal out there, but Florida Fish and Wildlife, FWC or whatever. There's groups that do that. There are plenty of animals at the zoo that have been rescued. One, Buddy, our giant otter out of South America, he is blind. Completely blind. And we got him because he was rescued from the wild in South America because he was abandoned by his family because he's blind. They all headed off and he's blind. So literally these villagers rescued this animal and we're having it there. And then we got it from there, and which is really cool because that animal would have perished without human intervention. And now that animal in human care has sired, I think he has 3 daughters in the water with him now. And I think he's had a couple of litters, but he's sired other animals, and his genetics are pure. And there's something called the Species Survival Program that our zoo, as an AZA accredited zoo, is part of, along with a bunch of others. And they are managing, basically, for lack of a better explanation, and a really easy explanation, current zoos and aquariums and everything are modern day Noah's Ark. They are keeping the genetics through the Species Survival Program very clean and making sure that you don't have dad breed with daughter, stuff like that. And so that's why animals will move around the country. Like we currently, you might have seen our social media, we're losing
What a great explanation. I've always wondered that because they are always moving animals around. That makes perfect sense.
We just lost Banks to a zoo in Texas a few months ago. And Banks was our jaguar that was born a year and a half ago, about 2 years ago. And we lost him at about 2 years because as a male at 2 years, he can't be with his mom anymore because he's starting to get too aggressive. And we already had Harry, his dad, there. So we already have a male and we have the mom. We can't have another male because we only have the 2. And there's another zoo that doesn't have a jaguar.
Like between all the zoos, is that kind of like a trading thing? Like, hey, I just gave you a jaguar. Do you have anything back? Or?
What's really great about it is to keep it from having to be managed by the zoos and aquariums. There's a group that handles it. All of the data is in one central place, and the Species Survival Program looks at it. And like when you have babies, like we just had a new bongo was born just the other day. We've had 3 bongos in the last 3 months. We have 3 baby bongos out there if you want to go see them. But they monitor that and they look and go, okay, Jacksonville has a Jaguar that is almost 2 and has these genetics. This zoo in Texas has a female Jaguar with these genetics.
Interesting.
They're clean. They can be together. Let's get this one over there.
Wow.
And we just got a warthog last year that is now in with our warthog, Mateo, who's born here. But yeah, it's really cool. There's somebody else that handles it. And so it's sad because, like, you might have just seen the post that came out. We're losing Mockley. Mockley is one of the 3 Malayan tigers that was born 2 years ago.
Wow.
Or almost 2 years ago, year and a half.
Probably pretty rare animal, right?
There's only 150 of them left in the wild.
Wow.
And so he is going to another zoo to help have more Malayan tigers because they are doing things. We're not at the point yet. And Dr. Etling at the zoo has had these conversations and told me this. He's like, we're re-releasing small species. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's and I hope they're going to get mad at me when I say it wrong, but there's a newt and there's a Puerto Rican frog or newt, or we're doing stuff at the Jacksonville Zoo. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it, but you can look it up. But we do these things with these tadpoles and we send them down to Puerto Rico. And so we're re-releasing these tadpoles into the wild to rebuild this population that has been decimated down there. And so they're doing stuff on small animals. Right. And obviously everybody knows the greatest success story, the gray wolf in Yellowstone, when they brought that back, but that is the long-term goal of a lot of these places going, listen. And that's why you'll also see zoos not doing, like, you won't see at our zoo, you won't see a specialist touching, petting the tiger or holding something, they do medical training with them so that the medical treatment is voluntary, but it's hands off because yes, the long-term goal is eventually we could possibly be able to put these animals, put animals back in the wild. But that is a way.
You're obviously very in tune. Dream. I can tell with all the So I read online over 2,000 animals and 1,000 plant species. I mean, that's incredible. And you talked about the new entrants. I just want to rapid fire really quick because there was on the website is amazing because it goes through every single animal, but I wanted to rapid fire the ones that kind of stood out to me, like African elephant. Yep. Like, do you know
we
names?
Got 3 of them. Yeah, we got Ali, Sheena, and Tondi. Sheena and Tondi are the females. Ali is the male elephant, and Ali was Michael Jackson's elephant. We got him from Neverland Ranch.
What a bit of trivia there.
We got Ali from Neverland. You'll hear it on the train every time you ride the train. They tell you as you go by the elephants. But yeah, we got Ali from Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch back in like 1997 or 98. Yeah.
African lion?
Yeah. African lion. Oh, what is his name? Is it Kevin? Or maybe there's another one. I can't remember.
I don't expect you to remember all the names.
I will tell you, though, there are people there. I mean, specialists definitely, but there are people at the zoo that know all of the animals.
I'm sure. I mean, we had the rock python, the otters. You mentioned otter. Otters are my favorite. I mean, they just look like they're having fun the whole time.
The giant otters, the little otters that you'll see over in Asia, those are the cute ones. The giant otter, if you see that in the water, I wouldn't go near it.
Right. They're vicious.
It's just, the buddy, if he were to stand up, he's a good 4.5
Oh yeah,
feet tall.
I watch National Geographic all the time, and they're serious predators.
Their claws are nasty. I wouldn't want to get in the water.
And you had there's a bald eagle there. Is there a couple bald eagles?
We got a couple, yeah. Okay. Those are also rescues. Those are rescues because both of the eagles you'll see at our zoo have broken wings, and so again, they would have perished. And so you can see them in wild Florida.
A lemur are funny.
Got a bunch of lemurs. Yep. Yeah, we got a few different types of the lemurs. Yeah.
A
bonobos.
That's
bonobos are
that's
apes.
An ape. That's an ape. That's right. That's right.
Do you know the difference? Do you know the difference between apes and monkeys?
Oh man, I should know this. I know I learned it in school.
It's going to be an easy one. And from now on, whenever you go to a zoo or anywhere and you see them, you're going to know, oh, that's an ape. That's a monkey. Monkeys have tails.
I would never.
Apes do not have tails.
Well,
bonobos,
now that
gorillas,
I think about it, it makes sense.
Bonobos, gorillas, orangutans.
Interesting. Got plenty of snakes, another python, Burmese
my kids love
python.
them.
Capybara, I think, have always kind of been funny. And then, of course, you got the emu that is famous with all the commercials. Yep. You talked about manatees, zebras. Have you ever held a sloth?
I have not got. I've gotten to feed the sloth. They'll let you in the behind the scenes experience with the sloths. Right. They'll let you hold food and let them take it from you.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. And they literally move that slow.
They do.
That is just the craziest animal. Like, how do they ever survive? Like, it's just like mind blowing.
We just opened Sloth Crossing a month and a half ago. It's right by the kids' play park. And it's called Sloth Crossing because one of the things we do at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, and the whole point of what we do there, is to connect people with wildlife and wild places.
Right.
And it's all about conservation and education. Mm-hmm. And Sloth Crossings comes from down in Costa Rica. There's a program we support at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens with your dollars that when you come to the zoo, anytime you buy a ticket, $1 from that ticket goes straight to conservation efforts around the world, and $4 from every membership goes to conservation efforts around the world. So when you come and help us, we are funding programs like the Sloth Crossing in Costa Rica, where they install ropes above highways so that sloths can get from one side of the road to the other without coming to the ground. Because when a sloth comes to the ground, that's when they die. Yeah, cars hit them or predators get them.
Mandrill, black bear. Bears are always one of my favorites. Giraffe. I mean, you've got to love giraffes.
Giraffes.
I mean, have you ever fed one?
Absolutely. The giraffes, one of the coolest parts of our zoo that everybody comments about is you can feed giraffes at our zoo with the total experience ticket. You can walk up and feed a giraffe. And our giraffe overlook is really cool because you're at head height. So as they walk up to the railing, their head is right here, and you're handing food like that. And that's... that. Oh, man. The coolest thing I got to do, though, with the giraffes, when I was on news, again, they asked, you want to go cover the zoo? I'm like, yeah. So you show up with a camera and you tell the zoo you're going to do fun stories. They'll let you do anything. And I got to hold the head of a 3-day-old giraffe.
Oh, my gosh.
For its wellness check.
How awesome is that?
They were going to do the first wellness check. And it
was probably pretty big at that point.
It is my height. So they go, I'm coming to the news, and I go, what do I have to do? And I had already done a 1-week-old tiger cub, Malayan tiger. I'd gotten to hold the tiger and help with its first wellness check, or maybe a second. But the giraffe, it was the first wellness check for this giraffe. So it had been with mom for a few days, and they're like, okay, we're going to do a wellness check. They had separated mom, because you don't go in there with mom there. No. They had separated mom, and they're like, okay. And I go, what am I doing? Like, I don't do needles. I don't give me that. But I said, what am I doing? And they said, what you got to do is the most important. We're going to put a towel over the head. One of our specialists will put a towel over the giraffe's head, and then we need you to just grab both sides of the head and just hold it. And just keep it still.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, it's a 3-day-old giraffe, folks.
How hard could this be?
How hard could this be? I walk around the corner, and I look, and I'm eye to eye with this thing, and I'm like, okay, it's my height already. That's weird. I'm like, it's a good baby, right? Yeah. I've seen Bambi. Right. It's going to be wobbly.
Right.
They put that towel over, and they go, okay, come here. And I come up, and I go, and I'm holding like this, and all of a sudden... I'm like, oh my God. They're like, yes, hold it. We told you. And I'm like, okay. Holy cow. It's like really strong.
It probably has teeth too.
That whole thing, that whole neck is just one big muscle.
Oh man.
And 3-day-old. And I'm like, I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not saying but I'm not the smallest guy either. But I was like, holy cow, that is amazing.
3 days
3 days old. Yeah. And that thing would trample me if
it just shows you how the wild is, man. You got to be ready to go day one. Rhino, I've always loved rhinos. Warthogs are hilarious to me. We talked about the apes and gorillas, pretty incredible. It's so interesting to go through that. I mean, there's so many more species out there. Do all of them get named?
Yes, all of them get names.
And then most of them respond by their names.
The specialist was funny. The specialists have other names for some of the animals too, but there are names for every animal because some names were paid for by a donor. A donor donated to get to name the animal. So we do that from time to time. You'll see that pop up. It's a cool,
one thing you
cool,
mentioned too that I would definitely want to get out to the people listening is there's different experiences with different tickets.
Sure.
So talk about that. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So there's a total experience ticket. There's your regular ticket, gets you in. There's a total experience ticket. And the total experience ticket gets you ride the train, you feed the giraffes, you feed the stingrays, you feed the lorikeets, you get to go in the 4D theater, and you get to ride the carousel. So there's a bunch of stuff involved.
It sounds like
in
there's no decision between those tickets.
Right. It's a little more, but you get to do all the stuff that's there. And if you just do the regular ticket, you go see all the animals, but you can't ride the train, can't do the carousel. And, and then there's obviously the membership, which I will tell you, the membership, 2 different types of memberships. There's a regular membership, which I think is the best deal going. And the way I tell everybody is you pay for 2.5 visits and you'll get 360 for free.
Wow.
Because we're only closed 2 days a year. And so the the cost of it is the cost of coming to the zoo 2.5 times.
Right.
So if you go 3 times to the zoo, you've paid for your membership in a year, and then you get invited to a bunch of stuff. But the one I've been a member of before I even worked there was the Heart of the Zoo Society, and that is a higher tier membership donation. It starts at $500 versus I think the regular membership is like $75 for adults, $65 for kids. But it's $500 at the first level, and then there's like $1,000 and a $1,500, $2,000, and that gets you invited to more events first than members. But it is also a great way to donate to the zoo. And if you're going to anyway, I'm like, I might as well get, because you get a gold card too. When you're in the Heart of the Zoo Society, when you show up, it's a gold card.
Okay.
Yeah, for your membership card.
So lots of different ways to donate. A lot of corporate sponsorships I read.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about a TV show at the zoo, like a Jack Hanna type thing?
Zoo TV, yeah. We're trying.
That would be an interesting thing.
We've talked about it. We would love to do it. We want to do a podcast, but...
you've been an animal and on TV. I mean, it's a perfect combination.
The only thing we're lacking is, like everything else in life, time and money.
Right. Well,
we're a 501c3, and so it's one of those projects where it's like, we should do a podcast. Yeah. And I'm like, we should do that.
Yeah.
And you know how much this costs.
Yeah.
You know how much that costs.
Yeah.
You know how much that costs.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we can't do that yet.
Right.
So that's why I'm philanthropy, I'm marketing, and so I keep trying to go out and tell people, like, listen, our zoo is world class. Our zoo is amazing, but it can't survive without the time, talent, and treasure of our community.
Right.
And because people donate their time out there all the time. That was 2 times in one sentence. But people do that all the time, and that's a huge thing for us.
There is a mechanism to donate your time, to go out.
Yes, absolutely. It's on our website. You can volunteer.
Can you do like jobs where you like just clean up animal mess, like stuff like that?
You can, but it's more fun stuff than that. It's actually some of the volunteer stuff is helping with spooktacular, handing out candy.
Right.
Some of it is carrying an iPad around and going and observing some of the animals.
Wow,
and you'll see volunteers. You'll see their T-shirt on, and they're standing there. And this allows our specialists to have data on the animals and how they're behaving, because they can't watch them all day long. They're doing other stuff.
Right.
And so we have volunteers walking around with an iPad, and they basically watch for a solid, like, continuous amount of time, 15, 20 minutes, and then they mark what's happening. Okay. They go, oh, the animal's moving. They mark the animal moving. And so now the animal's eating. Okay. And they do that so that the specialists have all this data. They can look and you'll see, and that's how they see when an animal is starting to, maybe not feel well or something. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, the data is showing this animal hasn't moved much in the last few days. Interesting. And that helps them go, hey, we should look at this one. You know what I mean? Right. So it's really helpful. Our volunteers make us go, and the donations, again, this new entrance, we're still raising money for it. We can't do what we do at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens without this community. Yeah. But let me qualify that by telling people, I don't want anybody to think we don't have the money to take care of the animals. We always have the money to take care of the animals. They get the first money. Right. So when the money comes in, good point, the animals are first in line. Right. They get all the money first. Right. This extra money, and why I keep pushing people to donate and just show up. If you just show up, we make a lot more money. Right. We get more people through the turnstile, this zoo will go through the roof. Right. And I tell people, the animals get the money first, but this extra money, when we get more money, we're able to build new things. We're able to make this zoo even more world class. And we're able to do the conservation and education program, because the things that get cut when we don't hit budget, like we did last year, like a lot of people did last year, the things that get cut are those outreach programs. Right. And some of the outreach programs we do is go into schools, we go into nursing homes, we go into jails. We take the zoo to places where people can't get to us. Very cool. And so that's awesome. That's the type of stuff you're helping fund. Yeah. Never worry about the animals. They're getting the highest quality care. They're getting treated better than most of us. You said lettuce or costs are high, so I get that. And a big component of the zoo is the gardens, which I didn't really understand, but I was on the website, like so many different gardens, botanical garden, Savannah Blooms, garden at Trout River, river gardens, garden range of jaguar, Asian bamboo, Riv of Color Garden, like River of Color. River of Color. Sorry, I didn't put that river. So that's awesome. What's really cool is, so we're a rare thing. Botanical gardens, the Jacksonville Zoo and Botanical Gardens. Not every zoo has botanical gardens. And even the zoos that do have a garden area and say they're a garden, it's usually like, oh, it's over there and it's a building, it's a greenhouse, like a giant greenhouse, and there's a bunch of stuff there. The gardens at Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens start as soon as your car drives through the entrance. Neat. and heads into the parking lot because every plant, everything that you see along every walkway from the entrance of the driving in all the way through the zoo, around the parking, every plant was placed there. Nothing is by accident.
Wow.
Even when it looks like there's all kinds of stuff growing through there, they go through and meticulously plan out everything through there. So the river of Color Garden is referring to the connection between all the gardens. Because when somebody comes in and goes, a new person, where are the gardens? I'll go, turn around.
Right.
They're like, what do you mean? I'm on the main path. I'm like, that's part of the gardens. That's part of every plant you see is part of the garden.
Yeah.
So it is world class. Our horticulture team is like
that's
one
what I
of
was
the
going to
best
say.
in the country.
What a pretty skilled team to keep that going. I can imagine. And then obviously one of the best things for zoos is kids. Tons of great programs.
Yeah.
Homeschool Zoo Academy. I thought that was really cool.
My kid goes, yeah. We homeschool our kids, and so
oh man,
Zoo
what a
school.
great thing!
Zoo school, it's amazing.
Lots of people homeschool. I didn't even know about that. I think that's amazing. Zoo camps. I'm assuming a lot of stuff going on this summer.
Oh yeah,
wild family guided tours. I mean, the website is just amazing with information. Like I did a lot of looking and research on that.
Yeah, so
good.
No, there's so much to do. There's so many ways to experience the zoo. One of them, I don't know when you're going to post this. One of the things that hopefully you went to and people went to was our exuberation party, which is May 3rd.
Okay.
And was May 3rd. We'll talk in past tense. But it's coming up this Saturday. It's a few days away. And it's one of our largest fundraisers of the year. And it's a sip and stroll and sample party with local restaurants and bars serving drinks.
What a great idea.
And it's 21 and up, so leave the kids at home for that one.
Right.
My wife and I are going. It's date night. It's the first time we're leaving the 18-month-old with somebody else.
Okay.
So this is a big step.
It is a big step. Good. I'm proud of you.
Well, I'll come back in the comments after this post and let you know how it goes. But yeah, so you can go to those events. We have Conservation on Draft, which is a beer and wine festival in the fall. We have Colors of the Wild. We have Toast to Conservation. We have there's Wine and Pigments. You can do a painting thing, and they have classes like that they offer all the time. And there's so many different programs that you can go have a great time at the zoo. Spooktacular, obviously, and you're supporting the zoo just by going to those as well. Right. So we're trying to hit everybody. Like, yes, the kids love going, but we're trying to throw parties that 21 and up want to come to too, because the Sip and Stroll in the South Bank, I love downtown, is a really great event. It's a lot of fun. Sip and Strolls everywhere else, they're really fun. The Tom Coughlin J Fund does one of the best wine and food events in town, has for 20 years. This one, in my opinion, is the best environment for a sip and stroll.
You get to look at
it's nighttime. The lights are on. The plants are there. You'll hear some animals. Most of the animals are away, but you'll see some animals. But it's just, it's an amazing place to go walk through and have a cocktail and eat some food from some of the best restaurants around town.
Incredible. Well, Curtis, this was amazing. I can't wait to see what you do next. I
got a business I'm getting ready to start. I'll come back on and talk about that when it opens. We can definitely
do that.
Yeah. Are you a golfer?
I try to be, for sure.
You'll love this one.
Okay.
You'll love this one.
It's golf oriented.
It's in the golf space,
It will hint at that. But man, what a cool history that you've had. You don't make me people that Mascot, TV, now the zoo. It's just, your life is very, very interesting, sir.
C's get degrees. So I'll say that as we finish this up. This is great. My dad's like, why are you saying that? But I have always been into entertainment and into having fun. Like I said, I got in trouble. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so I've always been wanting to get people's attention and all that stuff. And I've crafted myself into a decent performer. But I tell people all the time, I was like, every job I've had, I'm just trying to make 10-year-old me stoked. So I was like, dress up in a life-size stuffed animal costume and get paid? Check. Be on TV? Check. Do funny commercials? Check. Work at a zoo? Check. Own bars? That's not 10-year-old me.
Right.
That's 21-year-old me. Right. And then run your own businesses and stuff. It's like,
if you had a resume together, it would look really cool. So
I'm on LinkedIn, and that's the one part of LinkedIn that I have not put in yet. They're like, we need to have a resume. And I'm like, no. My dad even kidded me about that when I said I wanted to get into media back in early 2000s. He's like, well, you should go to UNF and get some broadcasting classes. I said, Dad, I'm not going to get a media gig based off of what I know.
Right.
They're not going to hire me when they have tons of people who studied it just because I took a couple night classes. I was like, I'm going to hopefully get hired because they're hoping to get to entertain their viewers.
Well, Curtis, this was really fun. Thanks you for your time. Really appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate your support of the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens.
Absolutely. The Hometown Jax podcast is recorded and produced by First Coast Mortgage Funding, located in the heart of Jacksonville. Do you want to be our next guest? Visit our website at hometownjaxpodcast.com. We can't wait to hear your story.